What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. I have just gotten back from watching Pokemon Detective Pikachu, the movie. And I thought I might sit here and talk about it with you all for a little bit. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are posting video reviews and things, and most of them are going to be movie critic channels and things like that, but I thought it might be helpful, or... No, I just really want to talk about it. But, to have an actual Pokemon Master talk about this sort of thing. Because you might know movies, but I know Pokemon. So, let's get into it. We're going to talk about the movie in general for a lot of it, I guess, and then do some spoilers at the end, maybe, if you want to hold off on it. Because, honestly, to me, I was not sure about this movie in the first place. I mean, I saw the trailers and things, and I'm like, okay, I mean, it looks interesting. The Pokemon game, Detective Pikachu, is a completely different story than this. It's very, very loosely based on that. It's basically just talking Detective Pikachu is the only thing that they took from the game itself. But very early on in the film, they do something. I mean, I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, because they easily could have gone the way of Pokemon Go and Pokemon Let's Go and only used the original 151. Now, I know I've seen trailers and things with other Pokemon in them. Like, in the first trailer, there were other Pokemon, but within, like, one of the first 5 Pokemon you see on the screen is a Bouffalont. You know, that random Gen 5 Pokemon. So it tells you that we're gonna be seeing more than you might expect, and people that stopped playing with the originals are gonna be like, "What is this?" Especially since they don't know what the CG rendering is based on. And very early on, I was happy because there is a Cubone that has narrative significance in the first little bit, and it comes back later, in a sense, and so I was like fist pumping, like, yeah, Cubone, represent. All right. The main location for the movie is Rhyme City, which is a made-up place for. It's not from any of the major games or anything, and they don't really have Pokemon battling. It's like a supposed utopia where people and Pokemon live in harmony, even though they do that everywhere. And it's funny because I thought about it, and I'm like, Pokemon battling isn't bad. I mean, depending on who you ask. I guess Team Plasma would think it's bad. But anyway, they form like an underground fighting ring for Pokemon, which would obviously happen because you're gonna battle Pokemon no matter what, even if you're not supposed to. I mean, I don't think it's against the law or anything, because they have Pokemon on the payroll for the police. But, it's like you're supposed to have like one specific partner Pokemon relationship, kind of like Pokemon Ranger or something, where you just have that one buddy and you haven't even actually caught them or anything. I guess we should talk about the cast of characters. The main kid he was pretty good. I mean, he's alright. I mean, he did a serviceable job for the film, but to me, the girl was much better in her role. She was much more believable in this world, somehow, to me. It felt like she actually lived there and belonged in that world. And her relationship with her Psyduck and everything. The Lucy character, I thought, was well done and well portrayed. Even though I don't think I've seen her in anything before, but maybe she'll be in more stuff now. And that's the other thing about this movie. Even if you don't like this movie, or don't want to give it a chance, because I was skeptical of this movie, and I wasn't sure if I was going to give it a chance. But I thought, I'll go ahead and watch it, and, maybe talk about it on the channel and everything. But even if you don't think it's going to be good, or even if you go watch it and you don't like it, the fact is that it's good for the brand. Because even if it's not exactly on base with what Pokemon generally is, it has people talking about it more. It has people thinking about it. I mean, this many people haven't talked about Pokemon since Pokemon Go came out, probably. Just that sort of permutation in the cultural zeitgeist is something that you can't really force on anyone. You can't buy that sort of publicity. But with the fact that it comes around, and I mean, Pokemon was huge back in the day, and then it had a resurgence with Pokemon Go, and we could maybe see another resurgence if they do well with this movie, and maybe even do sequels and things. I read somewhere that it's projected to do 50 or 60 million this weekend in the opening, but we'll see whether... I have a feeling it might do better, but it's also up against Avengers, which, by the way, after watching that 4 times, Endgame, this movie was a breeze. I was able to sit through the whole thing, and it felt very, very quick, because I'm used to a 3-hour movie at this point. I guess we should talk about the title character, Detective Pikachu. Ryan Reynolds did a good job in the role. He also did some motion capture for it. I'm not sure to what extent, because, I mean, you have to work with the angle of the Pikachu and everything. I don't know how they did that on set. I'm sure you could figure it out. But, I mean, he did a good job. His voice is very distinctive, and he's funny. There were some funny moments. Maybe it was just the crowd of the theater I was in, but they were kind of stiff, so I didn't laugh at a whole lot, but I was laughing and smiling, and even at just, like, random things, like little references, or just a new Pokemon would pop up on screen. And, see, I was always looking around in the corners and stuff. I was looking at the signs, and I was looking for new Pokemon that I hadn't seen in the movie yet. They have cool signs and things, like one of them... there was a Cacnea on a sign, and to my recollection, I didn't see a Cacnea in the movie, but just the fact that it was on a sign is cool. And actually, they've had promo art of that Noctowl sign, and I didn't remember seeing a Noctowl in the movie either. And things like that. But it's not really a criticism, but to me, it was kind of obvious that they only had so many different Pokemon that they had made for this movie. And by that, I mean, if there was a Purloin in one scene, it would be a Purloin in another scene, not a Skitty or a Meowth or anything. And listen, I know, they're on a budget. They can only make so many fully rendered, CGI, realistic Pokemon. And I don't want them to go broke or anything. I understand that they have to do this quick and do it good. And so, yeah, you're going to see the same Pokemon sometimes. But to me, after a while, it's just like, okay, I guess Rhyme City only has like 50 different evolutionary lines or something. I mean, it's a very small regional dex. Which, by the way, they said region a couple of times, but they only call it Rhyme City, so they never establish what region that is in. But they do have posters and things of other regions. Like, it directly references Johto and Sinnoh and Cerulean and other actual places from the games. And there's other posters that are like Articuno versus Steelix in like this advertised battle match, and it's really cool to have those things. And actually, there's a rich guy that's in charge of the company, and he has these giant ornate statues of Dialga and Palkia and Arceus, and they look gorgeous. I hope they actually made those and that they exist somewhere in real life, because, man, that's awesome. And also, it might just be me and my conspiracy brain, but it looked like among his different items and things on his desk, he had the Adamant Orb and the Lustrous Orb. Now, he's very rich and powerful, so that is quite possible, but also that's, kind of out there that he would have both of those 2 items. But he does seem to be interested in those Sinnoh legends, so I wouldn't put it past him. I guess we'll get more into spoilers here, just because we're talking about plot and stuff, but the main premise of the film, it opens up with Mewtwo. He's there in a lab. And, by the way, it said one of the lab techs was Rita Ora, which I didn't realize at all, that there was a pop star in this, but anyway. It shows Mewtwo in all of his 3D glory and everything, which strikes me as a bit strange, because they're doing that 3D remaster of the original movie, and so you have 2 CGI Mewtwo's. Anyway, he's a very important character in this film, and I was concerned about how they were going to establish his origins, because there's only one Mewtwo. He was created by Team Rocket. and it is the same Mewtwo. They said that he was created in Kanto 20 years ago and escaped, which, that's when Red and Blue came out. So that was a really cool detail. They do have cool details like that in this movie, but it's also accessible to people that have never seen Pokemon. I would imagine, anyway. I'm very steeped in the Pokemon lore, and so I understand all the little references and things, but other people wouldn't care that the poster in the background says the word Sinnoh on it. But I noticed that sort of thing, and it's cool that they put that kind of level of detail into this movie. They seem to really care about it. The main plot by the bad guys, I guess you would call them, is that there's this sort of gas that makes Pokemon go feral and just sort of attack everyone that's around them. And it started off with like a horde of Apom that were exposed to this chemical and started attacking. And I thought, like, poor Apom, he's going to get a bad rap because little kids are going to be scared of this Apom that's like glaring and gritting its teeth and attacking people. But other people do it later on in the movie too. Other Pokemon get that sort of feral action going on, so it's not just Apom. I'm glad that they didn't tarnish it too bad. But then the main plot confuses me of the bad guy, because by the end, he captures Mewtwo, and then like uses some kind of headset to control Mewtwo. He like superimposes his mind onto Mewtwo. And so the bad guy's like talking and moving through Mewtwo and using his psychic powers to do things. And that didn't sit well with me. Number one, because Mewtwo is incredibly strong and he has a very powerful mind. So the idea that it could be overridden by a withered old man didn't fly with me. Furthermore, he uses Mewtwo's powers to put the souls of people into the Pokemon that are nearby. Okay. He says he does this because Pokemon can evolve, and humans need to evolve. But some Pokemon don't evolve. Some of them are fully evolved and can't go any further. I know they were doing experiments and things in their lab to make Pokemon evolve more or evolve different or better, but you can't finish those experiments if you're not still a human. So maybe wait till you get everything all settled there in the lab, and you know how to make every Pokemon evolve more, if that's your goal. But that just got a little out there for me. The fact that you can now just put souls into Pokemon, and even if that's not a normal thing, it seems to be well within Mewtwo's powers, because once they defeat the guy and Mewtwo gains control of his body again, he just undoes it. So apparently he's able to do that either way at will, and that doesn't really seem like it's a psychic power to me. I don't know what attack that would be, but apparently Mewtwo knows it. There is a really cool moment with the Ditto in the movie. I won't go into what that is. I'll let you figure that out for yourself. But it kind of caught me off guard. And spoiler alert, heavy spoiler alert for this, but it turns out that the big plot twist was that the guy's dad that they were looking for the whole movie was inside the Pikachu all along. And then Mewtwo undoes that, and the guy's happy with his dad and the Pikachu. And they used Pikachu's actual voice, like, from the show and everything. Like, there's one Pikachu voice, and they used it for this, when it wasn't Ryan Reynolds. I mean, when they were just saying Pika Pika and everything. Which I liked. I liked that a lot. But it made it even more difficult to swallow when other Pokemon didn't sound like they usually sound, you know? Like, we know what Psyduck sounds like, because we had Misty Psyduck for years in the anime, but this Psyduck sounds different. And so I was on board with that until we had Pikachu sounding the same. But that's a minor complaint. That's just a thing for me. And while we're on minor complaints, I guess I'll be that guy. But I know that it's a kids' movie of sorts, but it really threw me off when they sprinkled in a little profanity here and there. You may have noticed, whether subconsciously or not, I don't do that on my channel. I don't do that in real life. That's just how I am. And so it really threw me off when they did that in a kids movie. I know that they do that in other kids movies, but it's never been in Pokemon. That's why I don't like it when they do that in fan games. So I don't think it should have been in this movie. I know that the target demo might be more my speed, and by that I mean my demographic of people that played the games when it first came out and now they're 20 years older. And so they can handle that sort of thing. But, I mean, there were kids in my screening, and this is obviously for kids as well, because they try and market to children every time a new generation comes out. And they did the same thing, too, in Incredibles 2, and that just immediately took me out of the movie, because I'm like, this is Pixar! What are you doing here? And I guess that's more of a tangent than anything, since we're not talking about that movie. That'd be a good name for an ability, actually. Tangent. What would it do? I guess it could just trail off in conversations about topics that aren't really relevant anymore. All in all, I liked the experience. Even if the rest of my audience didn't like it as much, I was smiling, I was laughing, I was like, oh, that thing! References! And so, as a first foray for Pokemon into the world of live-action movies, I thought it did alright. And, assuming this does well, or even passable, they will likely make more sequels and things, although I'm not sure how they would do a sequel to this movie, considering how it ended. But just the concept of more live-action Pokemon movies, with real people on the screen and other photorealistic CGI pocket monsters running around. And so, the prospect of that has me quite excited, because Pokemon is very rich in lore and possibilities. They could do all sorts of different movies in the Pokemon world without having to specifically go back and do the standard games. So the future of that has me very excited. That's part of what drove me to see the movie, was to financially support it and vote with your wallet, as they say. I mean, if you go to pay to see it, then they know that, hey, you liked it. And so people going to see Avengers Endgame 7 times means that they really like it. And that's why it's the second highest grossing movie of all time. Detective Pikachu's not going to do that. I don't know that it'll even beat out Endgame in its third weekend for the #1 spot of the weekend. But we'll see. I have faith in it. I think it'll do slightly above projections at least. But I think it'll be a good reminder for everyone that Pokemon isn't dead like they thought, and it's not going anywhere. It's sticking around for a long time. And the fact that this movie is coming out the same year that a new generation is coming out, I don't think is a mistake or a coincidence. I think they know what they're doing, and they're gonna drive up the talk about Pokemon big for when Sword and Shield come out. And it'll probably work, to be honest. So, Detective Pikachu, have you seen it? What did you think? If you were waiting to see it just to hear whether it was good or not, or what someone else's opinion might be, I would say go see it. If you like Pokemon, you'll probably like this movie. There's something for everyone in this movie, I would say. Whether you're a fan of Pokemon since the day it came out like I am, or whether you've never seen it before in my life and somehow found this video. Go check out Detective Pikachu for yourself. It's a fun ride either way, I would imagine. So I guess now all that's left is for them to make a live-action Digimon movie. Can't wait for that. What other movies would you like to see from the Pokemon lore be made into live-action movies? I would certainly love to see a plethora of different things to come. But, let me know what you thought down in the comments. Also, be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time.